That 34-year-old Benzema won the Ballon d'Or. Honestly,
I'm talking about.
I'd rather face this current Real Madrid team than that team. Because this
Of
team, since
course.
we're talking about them, by the way, listen, that front line is so bad. It is, you know, when people say having the best players in their positions is not as good as having like a balanced attack, as an example. Another attack with less big names but is more functional than this. Because guess what? The proof is this Real Madrid front line last year was more functional and they didn't have Mbappe in it, but they had
Facts.
what's his name, Joselu in it. That's proof to you that names don't just work. That's not how it's done. Vinny and Mbappe, and let me get this take right now, by the way, because I've seen enough of it. Vinny and Mbappe is never gonna work. Never. And then I give him one more season of Perez doing this until he decides to sell one of them, and it's mostly gonna be Vinny. Thank you again, Rodrigo, not Rodrigo, sorry, Rodri. I mean, his name is
I thought
Rodrigo.
it was
But thank you
Rodrigo,
again,
man.
Rodri, for winning the Ballon d'Or because you exposed how bad Vinny could be outside of obviously last season. I mean, this guy's the face of Brazilian football, and you have Brazilian legends saying we don't want to watch the national team no more. That is how bad Vinny has been. He's had some clutch moments last year. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to dismiss his season. But the proof that Vinny and Mbappe can't play together, you saw Vinny start the season better than Mbappe, and now you're seeing Mbappe being better than Vinny. That showed me enough that no matter what they do, that front three is never going to work. Probably Mbappe is going to be shifted back to the left, and Vinny's going to be sold, and then you're going to go out and sign a real
You
striker.
know what it is though?
Rodrigo, at least, bro, knows how to play. Like, Rodrigo doesn't play in his best position, but I've seen him link up play better. I've seen him accept a role that's a little bit lesser than the other attackers where he gets it to work. With Mbappe and Vinny, it's never going to work, bro. I'm convinced Timber had a field day against Vinny. And I can't
Yeah.
say that Timber would have been that comfortable if Mbappe was the one that's playing on the left wing. So this front three, listen, it's good on paper. It's good for jersey sales. It's good for preseason tours when people pull out to watch Vinny and Mbappe go to Asia and to USA and all that. But that front line ain't going nowhere, bro. I'll be honest with you. That front line is the most overrated front line in world football right now.
What is?
You got,
Who's it?
by the way, you got three players in that front line that have like that have like combined 2 goals in like what 3 months. Vinny and Rodrigo.
Oh, right, Real Madrid.
The
Sorry.
audacity, by the way, to call Rodrigo clear of Saka. Come on, man.
Yeah. But that gets into that conversation again, doesn't it? About legacy and achievements versus just ability. On ability, there is no way Rodrigo is clear of Saka. When you factor in all the other elements, you know, the kind of games he scored in, the competitions he's helped won, which I think build when you go into the greatest conversations, it's a different matter. But yeah, I don't even know. The front three, I felt it all season at Real Madrid. There is a little bit of an imbalance. And I think I don't like to slag him off because I rate him, but I feel like Mbappe is a bit of a problem. In the sense of when I watched PSG the other night, what I thought was brilliant, Rashford got put through for a counter-attack and he was up against whoever their right back was. I forget his name, so I apologize. It wasn't Hakimi under the right back. It was a different player. It might have been the centre-back who stepped out. And you think, oh, go on, Rash, like, have a go here because I want Rashford to score. I want us to get a big amount of money in the summer. And then out of nowhere, Dewey come back and didn't quite win the ball, but put enough pressure on him to distract Rashford, and the centre-back came out and got the ball. And I just sat there and thought, Mbappe wouldn't have done that. Neymar wouldn't have done that. Messi, he didn't do it. Maybe he did it when he was younger, but Messi wouldn't have done it when he was there. And I looked at PSG and went, a team. When I look at Real Madrid, I think with the flaws they have in the midfield at the moment, like you've all mentioned, you've got like two attackers. Vinny does help a little bit, to be fair, but you've got two attackers that are often not in the game unless they're attacking with the ball. And I just think in the modern day game, with the structure so many teams have, it always hinders you a little bit. And I just don't, and I'm not trying to say Mbappe's not a team player per se, but there's almost like this element of he's so big, he's such a superstar, he doesn't do any of the other work. And I just don't know how well that fits in the modern day game. Unless you've got a defense and a midfield that can dominate that ball. You know, we saw when Ronaldo didn't run around and track back or anything, but look at that midfield and defense that was behind him during his time at Real Madrid. It almost didn't need Ronaldo to get back and help all the time. Does that make sense? You could get away with it. They're just not that midfield anymore. So yeah, there's something off balance about Real Madrid, if that makes sense. And
yeah, I told you, man, they're missing a big player. You know, from the start of the season, I told you, Terry, like they're missing Toni Kroos, man. When you see what that guy was doing for those guys, bro, it was insane. I can imagine him in this game if he played, just getting the ball and straight away when Odegaard and that are pressing him, just pinging it over the top consistently. That's how they were trying to win the game. But Modric couldn't do it to that level. He just couldn't, bro.
Well, this here says that Terry Carlo said he doesn't want his attackers to defend at all. It's all on the coach. Well, partly, then maybe it is them. The reason I use Mbappe is because we also saw him at PSG not do it, and now we see everybody at PSG do it. So I do think there's an element there, and there's crossover with the manager there. I do think there's an element of that, and yeah, some of it is maybe on the coach, and that's a very, very fair point to put out there. But it's a mistake. And look, Carlo Ancelotti is one of the greats, and I've got a lot of tremendous respect for him. But at the same time, I think when you're at Real Madrid, the advantage they have is that invariably they have the best players in the world, or a combination of some of the best players in the world. And I think they can often get away sometimes with we've got more knockout power than you, and we'll knock you out before you knock us out. And essentially they get through a lot of football matches, especially in the last 5, 6, 7 years. They've got through a lot of games by just having more firepower. And the point I'm really making is there's been a lot of teams that should have beaten them in the Champions League over the last 5 years. I've watched the matches. Yeah. The problem is in that time is teams didn't kill them off. And this is the one thing I say about the Arsenal performance. If it hadn't have been for those 2 free kicks, Arsenal might have only won 1-0. That probably wouldn't be enough to go through. It's what, and again, it's because they've got one of the best shot stoppers in the world. And it's not a dig at Real Madrid at all. But once they come up against teams like this season when they've played Barcelona, well organized, they're like an organism. They're like a single organism, the way they operate. They haven't been able to cope with it when the quality of player is nearer. It's only when they have, especially in their attack, just clear blue water as a collective between the two teams, that's when they seem to have got through. Or you've had like a goalie like Courtois in the final against Liverpool just have the greatest night of his life and just save every single shot and every single chance. And so, yeah, I'm not, as I said to yourself here, G, I'm not blaming Mbappe 100%. I would never do that. But I feel like there's an imbalance in the team. And maybe a big part of that is the manager saying, well, you 3 don't need to defend. Just stay up there and we'll knock the ball long to you. I just don't know how. I know they win a lot as well. So people say it's a great tactic. They win loads. It depends on the quality of opposition they're up against. It really, really does. And there's a reason that Real Madrid
they've been getting away with it for a while. I'll be honest. Like, I've been one of their biggest haters over the last few years because every time, like their last 2 Champions Leagues, I didn't think they were better than the teams that they beat. The one that Benzema carried them to, it took like a Ballon d'Or season from someone to carry them to Chelsea, Liverpool, City, and I forgot there was one more team that they beat along the way. And then last season, they didn't even play better than Dortmund.
It took some fuckery. Don't forget the mistake that Mendy made. It took
mistakes from Mendy, a hat-trick from Benzema against you, a super sane performance from Courtois in the final, and what's his name? The City game, obviously, when Rodrigo came on. Remember that infamous graphic when he said 99% to qualify? It was Man City and 1% Real Madrid, and somehow Real Madrid did it. Their squad building hasn't been good over the last few years. They've been relying so much on getting free signings that because they have a big name, they've been bullying teams by getting some of these players. And honestly, it's finally catching up to them. I'm not gonna lie, it's jarring because I look at them. They don't do better squad building than most teams in Europe, yet they always get rewarded with Champions Leagues. And it generally pisses me off because I don't think they approach it the right way. Like Carlo Ancelotti, for me, I'm not gonna lie, there's a reason, by the way, and one day I'm gonna drop this video talking about how he's one of the most overrated managers in the history of the game. The way some of the legends of the game speak about him and his tactics and his training, Arjen Robben, during his time at Bayern, said that I've watched my kid play football in the academy, and he had more tactics in his training than Carlo Ancelotti gave us at Bayern. Like, the fact that this guy never won a back-to-back league and he's been coaching for about 30 years, there's something about this that I need to find to expose why I don't think this guy's as good as he is. He took that Real Madrid team, by the way, when he won La Decima and got sacked. Zidane came in and took that same team, tweaked the system. He played a diamond 4 instead of playing a 4-3-3, and he won 3 in a row. And that was a rookie coach at that time. Like, if a rookie coach can come in and win 3 Champions League with the same team that you got sacked with, I'm not gonna lie. There was a reason why this guy was at Everton. I think he's rode his luck way too much.
Yeah, I think there's a bit. I think one thing I think he's good at, elite at. Good's the wrong word. I think that he is elite at managing his players. He is elite at man management as an example and keeping people on side and making them work hard and respect him.
He's an overrated tactician.
Yeah, potentially. But I think when you have and you look at some of the teams he's managed in his lifespan, going right back to the 90s, he has managed some teams with some phenomenal players in, because he's been able to keep those players on side and those players happy, a base system, and then go out there and play. Because of the quality of the players, I think it's got them through a lot more games and matches than necessarily, as you say, the tactics that he employs. And you've seen that a lot at Real Madrid. And I get why Real Madrid fans look at it and think, because I was looking at the two teams and I was thinking, imagine Arsenal's setup and team, but with Madrid's front three. You put Saka in the front three still and take two of the three and put them in that side. It's a 6 or 7-0 game. Like, genuinely, it's a 6 or 7-0 game if you take Arteta's system and tactics, the way the team is constructed, but you put the firepower in it that Real Madrid have got. I feel like the game would have been 5, 6, 7-0. So,
listen, for the chat,
really important.
For the chat crying, saying, "Oh, respect Carlo, you don't what you're talking about." This guy managed AC Milan's golden generation for 8 years, and he won 1 league and 1 Champions League. What are we even doing here? 1 league when he had Maldini, he had Nesta, he had Kaká, he had Gattuso, he had Pirlo, he had Inzaghi. He had the best. The reason AC Milan are behind Juventus and Inter Milan when it comes to Serie A's is mainly because of this guy. Like, it is generally, like, if we make fun of Arteta for not winning for 4 years, imagine this media right now, or the YouTube that we have right now, if you had it in the early 2000s, when Carlo Ancelotti was managing this team. Like, if you go player for player for that AC Milan golden generation, we all put them in GOAT conversations. Dida, Maldini, Nesta, Cafu, Gattuso, Seedorf, Kaká. I named these names. And he won 1 league with them. The guy has 1 league in every country he went to, just 1. And he's never been back-to-back.
Carlo Ancelotti is the only manager, because of the volume of Champions Leagues he's won, that gets a pass. When I talk about great managers have to win back-to-back league titles and the Champions League, I don't think people the reason why I set a really high standard on that is I don't think people understand how hard it is in an elite league to win back-to-back league titles. I don't think people have. I mean, Lawless won't get it at all. But, like, I just don't feel like people understand the difficulty of doing that, let alone 3-peats and 4-peats. And I'm not talking about in leagues where there's one dominant force that has all the money, or even 2. Italy kind of don't just have 1 or 2 teams that have been successful. They've got more than that. So, yeah, it's hard. There's a few comments here I want to put up.
By the way, he bottled that 3-3 to Liverpool. I mean, God's sake. Imagine we had that. We had YouTube back in what year was it? 2005. They would have killed him.
Can you imagine a final like that now? Can you imagine a final now where a team's 3-0 up at half time and then loses? Can you imagine
that Liverpool team? You watch documentaries, they all tell you they knew they were going against the greatest team, and they thought they had no chance. Liverpool players knew they had no chance. They went up 3-0 at halftime, and this guy got outcoached by Rafa Benitez and lost 3 and drew 3-3 and lost the final.
Partly,
this guy is so overrated, and someone had to say it, and I'll be the one to say it.
You know, it's crazy. I was living in Manchester at the time, and at halftime there's just one bloke. It was in the pub I was watching it in. He was fuming at AC Milan. Just, sometimes you've got to listen to an old head. And everyone's like, what's the matter with you? I don't remember the guy's name. He's like, what's the matter with you? He went, they're fucking celebrating. And everyone's like, so? He went, they think they've won already. They have, they're 3-0 up. And then when the comeback happened, I just remember the people looking at him, and he went, I told you, they switched off. They thought they'd done it. They left their guard down. They got caught on the chin. And it's a bit, and the example he gave stuck with me, and I think about this a lot. The example he gave, he went, it's like when you get in at night and you go, I'm going to go out, or I'm going to go gym, or I'm going to do something. If you get in and you sit down, you have a cup of tea and eat a biscuit, how hard is it to get up and then go out again? Like, because you've sat down and relaxed, and you're like, he said, basically they did that at half time. And I was like, it's a great analogy. I've got a few super chats here to go to. People forget the first Galacticos disappointed. Over the 7 years, Barca dominated the league and Madrid only won 2 Champions Leagues. It's about squad building. I think it is. And I think it is. I think style of play is a very important component as well. And having a kind of a base way of playing where if it's more about the star names and some of those players are missing, how do you replace them? I think it's getting that balance correct is key. Terry, how does this mean Arsenal winning? Does it mean heritage is a myth? It's also followed up by saying heritage is a way of low IQ to dismiss discussions. I think both of you are making great points. When it comes to heritage, I think it depends what you mean by it. So I define it as a team and a club that have been there, done it, and worn the T-shirt, which means, for instance, Real Madrid fans, when the going gets tough in a game, may be able to, on most occasions, handle that pressure a little bit more, maybe not allowing so much anxiety to creep into the stadium, as an example. When a team's been to multiple Champions League finals and won it, the club will be filled with people and legends and backroom staff who have been there, done it, and worn the T-shirt, and they can help maybe a new, fresh team that's going to its first final, help them through those moments, because you can draw upon, listen, I did this, I did that, I did the other. So I do think heritage holds a part. However, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to win every single game. No. And I think there is a balance. There is a balance that is in there, but there's a reason that over the course of 50, 60 years, I mean, AC Milan have now completely fallen off as a club, but there's a reason why it's very regularly the same and similar teams that seem to be successful. And yes, part of it is the money they've got and everything else, but they seem to keep producing the teams, and they seem to get through difficult moments. And we've seen City are a great example of this, SC Dave. When they first joined the Champions League, they were spending money, they had a good team, but it was group stage failure, early knockouts, then a semi, then an early knockout, then a final, and then they progressed to where they were as a club. The fans, the backroom staff, the managers, the players. It was building up that European experience. West Ham on a lesser scale, because it's a slightly easier competition. By the time West Ham won their Conference League, was that your third year on the bounce in Europe?
Yeah,
it was building up that experience and that know-how and that understanding, and I do think. If you're then in Europe every year, I do think that can become almost intergenerational. A new squad passes it on to an old squad. If you've got a backroom staff that spend 20 years in Europe winning competitions, but and I'm not backroom staff like the coaches, I'm talking, directors and people that help work at the club. They can help the new people later on down the line to help with the pressures and the emotions because they've been there themselves. So I think heritage plays a part. But it isn't this be-all and end-all. It isn't just, well, they've won the Champions League. They haven't. It means the team that's won it before is definitely going to win. That is a very low IQ take. I agree, Dave.
Facts.
I agree. Real Madrid has problems of last year's PSG, Mbappe. Do you guys think Mbappe's done a lot of stick this week? Do you guys think Mbappe's maybe slightly overrated?
He wasn't the problem, though, this game. In isolation, he wasn't the problem. You could talk about the squad building being a problem, but I thought Mbappe was out of the three, the only one really that looked like he was going to do anything. I'm looking at the other two, and they were shocking, bro.
I guess it's like looking at a player that can carry a team on his own. When the team's not performing up to its level, he's the guy that's going to drag you through games. We've all seen those players. And obviously with the price tag, with the wages, a lot of expectation comes, and maybe he hasn't met those. So overrated doesn't mean he's not a great player. It just means that maybe he doesn't live up to the reputation that.
He scored a lot of goals this season, man. Like, he had a slow start. You're forgetting what he did to Man City, right? Not long ago in the Champions League. You know what I mean? He literally embarrassed Guardiola, right? It was just. Again, like I said, I didn't look at Mbappe and think, it was Mbappe's fault why they lost the game. It's not like, Vinny and Rodrigo were creating for him and he kept missing. Like, he barely had any chances created for him. A lot of what he had to do was basically creating his own chances, and his teammates around him.
Yeah. Would that not be expected, though, for a player of that level, is to be able to create your own chances when you're...
Bro, we're talking about... You're playing Arsenal. Arsenal aren't a joke at the back, right? I expect Rodrigo to do better than what he did. I expect Vinicius to do better than what he did. Vinny's literally in conversations for Ballon d'Ors and whatnot, right? So those guys didn't show up, bro. It's a team game end of the day. He's not Messi. I don't think anyone's ever said he's as good as Messi or even Ronaldo. Like, he needs help. You know what I mean? There's only a few players that can really take the game by the scruff of the neck every time, really. You're looking at the likes of Messi, the likes of fucking Ronaldo, Eden Hazard. You know what I mean? These sort of guys, bro. Mbappe is not that. He's not that, bro. He's not that.
Even Alexis Sanchez used to do it for Arsenal. When
Sanchez, that's another brilliant example. Sanchez, he used to fucking literally do everything for those guys. Everything.
I hear that.